would never miss an opportunity to race Iceman. Because like I realized it more this year, I think. Michigan's just different, right? Like the people, the people show up. Like it doesn't matter what it's like there. It may be raining, be frigid cold. Like as long as you got beer flowing, like there will be people there. It's just such a cool finishing environment for that to be like in my home state in one of the best finishing races, like with supporters, to be in Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people have seen the video of Orshaw washing out, and then L'Esperance, like he came in like Mario Kart hit the banana peel, and then I did the same thing. And so yeah, three of us in the top 10 all crashed on that last corner.
From KOM Cycling and Michigan Midpack Media, welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, the podcast that covers the cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Michigan Midpack. I am your host, Trevor, and on this episode, the favorite end-of-the-season mountain bike race, the Iceman Cometh Challenge 2023. Iceman is so special and beloved by so many of us, and whether you are a local, an out-of-towner, an amateur, a pro, a racer, a spectator, Iceman has something for everyone and continues to give year after year. This year was no exception. If you were there, we saw beautiful weather, nice man conditions, a third win for the champ, Alexei Vermeulen, and a newly crowned Ice Queen with a win from Deanna Males. A huge congrats to you both. For this year's episode, I wanted to share a few different perspectives of the race, of the experience of Iceman. First, from Michigan's favorite Paige Onweller, she joins us to talk about her pro women's race, where she took an amazing fourth place. Then I talk with Kerry Werner, cyclocross, mountain bike, gravel professional, and YouTube megastar, and he shares about the wild details of the men's pro race where he took 10th overall. And finally, the perspective from the age group Waves, where local Michigan rider and new riding nemesis of mine, Jake Lombardo, joins me and takes us through our epic battle for the 40-year-old men's podium. We cover a lot in this episode, and I want to get right to it. Iceman Cometh Challenge 2023.
Hi.
Good lighting.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice and bright.
Thank you. It is pretty bright, isn't it?
You need some stuff on your walls.
Yeah. Well, this is not my house, so.
Okay. Do you have a house? Do you have an actual are you homeless, Paige?
No, I'm renting. So yeah, I have a house here in Bentonville. Yeah, just renting a room. So I'm not homeless. We have a home.
So you're in Bentonville then?
Yeah. I'll be in Bentonville.
That was a quick trip back or not back, I guess. Or, maybe it is back. You went from Bentonville for Big Sugar and then up to Michigan and then back to Bentonville. Is that kind of the right?
Yeah, well, actually, so after the rad, like at the end of September, I drove to Bentonville, and then the day I got to Bentonville, I flew to Italy the next day, flew back to Bentonville after Italy, and then was there for Big Sugar, and then left for Michigan. So yeah, when I came back to Bentonville yesterday, I was like, I'm back home, but I really haven't been home. Like, yeah, anyways, it is my home base, but I haven't been here that much for the whole month of October.
It's so much that it probably doesn't feel like home, does it?
Well, surprisingly, when I quit my job last year, sold my house, got the van, and I was like, I'm going to be everywhere next year. And I remember thinking, there's going to be somewhere I visit next year, and I'm just going to be like, oh, yeah, this is where I want to be. And I hadn't had that this whole year, like California, Colorado, like all these amazing places. And I just didn't feel like, I was like, it's nice riding, but I don't really feel like it's home. When I got to Bentonville, I was like, oh yeah, I like it here. This community is dope and I'll be staying. So yeah, it does feel kind of like home already, but yeah, time will tell how I adjust here.
Yeah, cool. But I did want to ask you about Bentonville because I think we had talked about that a little bit, and I knew that you were kind of moving down there and making that your home base. And I wonder too, I was thinking about it a little bit because Bentonville has to, like, yes, you said it feels like home, but also in terms of your professional cycling career, you have to look at it as a very important step in your whole career, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I committed to moving to Bentonville without even like being here other than last year for Big Sugar for a couple days. But the reason that prompted to move there was because after Leadville, I was so frustrated with my skills. Like I was racing Leadville, and at the second aid stop, I told my mechanic, I was like, I effing hate mountain biking. I'm never touching this bike again. I don't
During
want
the
to finish.
race?
And I'm not like that. Like, if anyone knows me, you know that like I'm an eager beaver. I always want to do it all. And I was like, I hate mountain biking. And it's because I was so frustrated. Like, I like riding my bike. I love racing my bike because it's fun. Yes, I like to win. That's, also great. But at the end of the day, I do it because I genuinely love riding a bike. And I don't love when I'm on my mountain bike. I just don't. And that was at Leadville this summer. And so, I talked with, one of my sponsors, Trek, specifically, and they were really helpful for me to decipher, like, do I even want to race mountain biking? Like, why forces? Or if I do, like, how can we make, myself better? So they kind of set me up and gave me some options of really good skills coaches. And, the one in Bentonville, Annika Bierton, is who I'll be working with. And yeah, she is going to make me a shredder. Let's hope. So she has her work cut out for her. We'll say that. But yeah, I committed to working with her this winter, and that's predominantly the main reason I moved to Bentonville, to be honest. And there's a lot of resources here. Like there's an in-person strength and conditioning coach, Addison, that I'll be working with for lifting like 3 days a week. And it's very like detailed and guided. And the mountain bike national team is headquartered here. So there's all these resources. So I think it will be a good fit for me. But yeah, and I think it's a good transition for me to become a better cyclist as I try to figure out, how to race my bike. Yeah, so we're getting there.
So that sounds like you will have a busy off season of building skills and not just training, but really training skills almost.
Yeah, I feel like, before, the last 2 years, I've been trying to just kind of figure this all out. And I think like there'd be moments in races or events where I'd be like, oh, I think I did that wrong, or, oh, this, I need to do this differently. And now I feel like not only do I know, but I have the resources to actually like make those changes. Right. And like, for example, there was this particular tactic that kept happening this past weekend at Iceman. And already it's like, oh, well, I can work on that like one-on-one with my skills coach now, because that's why I'm hiring her. Also hired a sports psychologist. So I've been starting that over the last couple of weeks, and it's already proven to be extremely valuable. And that's only been like 3 sessions, so working with her this whole winter and off season. So yeah, it's like, I have my cycling coach, then I have my strength and conditioning lifting coach, I have my skills coach, I have my sports psychologist, doctor, I have like all these people
like your whole team down there.
Yeah, it really does take like a village. And I'm just like so thankful for the resources that I have. And it's a lot of money. Like some of it's my personal money. And it's hard to like spend that, but I also know like it's going to be worth it. So yeah, I'm excited about the progress, and yeah, I'm going to just have a lot of change this winter, specific things that I can work on. And yeah, that makes me pretty jazzed up about it.
Very cool. Well, you brought it up, and this is the reason that we're talking about Iceman. And so, and it's kind of ironic that you're talking about needing more mountain bike skills when we just got off of one of the biggest mountain bike weekends of the year. I know it's kind of a different, you wouldn't look at it the same way probably as Leadville, but Iceman is its own thing and requires its own set of skills, and definitely well, most people ride mountain bikes. I guess like some people don't ride mountain bikes, but I will consider it a mountain bike race. And Paige, you for considering yourself, for identifying as a non-mountain biker, you did pretty damn well. Fourth place. Is this? You did pretty good last year. Is this better than last year? It was the same last year. I can't remember.
It's the same. Like I was fourth last year, but I was nowhere near the leaders into the finish.
Okay.
I got popped off before. So for me to enter that finish circuit with leaders was a big step in the right direction, but also like how I rode, which we can talk more about, was another like huge improvement for me. So, you know, and the thing we have to remember is like last year and historically at Iceman, it's a lot of non-single track, right? Which is why I like the event. It's like, it's my kind of mountain biking. It's like 2-track and just like fast power-based, you know, stuff. And, you know, I don't know the exact percentage, but would you say like Iceman's normally like 30% single track? Like not much.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, this year, like it was a lot more, like 60, 70%. Like it felt like a lot to me.
It was. And I think that's kind of the story of the course. That's what everyone was talking about before. A lot of people were talking about after. I mean, it was a ton of single track. In fact, like, I don't know how you felt, but I'm like, when I was in it, because, you know, there's the different segments of it. And I'm like, when is this going to end? I know this was kind of long, but holy cow, this is a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, it totally was. And that for me, like, you know, I even talked to my coach this morning, and it was like, for me to be fourth this year with that course is a huge improvement than fourth from last year. So yeah, I mean, I was happy with it overall. And, you know, there was a ton that I learned during the race, which is always cool to like get fourth, have a decent day, and then say like, well, there was like 10 things I could have done better. So that for me is good. Like if I'm getting fourth and I did everything perfectly, then maybe that'd be more frustrating, but I feel like I'm doing well, but I still have like this big ceiling to improve. But yeah, 100%, like this year was very different Iceman than other years. And I'm curious to see if they keep it like that or if they go back to like the more typical Iceman. That'll be interesting to see.
I mean, I know that they like to mess around. That's probably not the right term, but they like to keep it interesting and change the course and, you know, take Anita's out one year and put it back in the next year and have it more flat versus more climby versus, you know, whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I was expecting, I was talking about this with a few people. I kept hearing that it was like new cut single track, and that to me isn't very exciting. It's like usually kind of rough. You know, it's not smooth, but I was a little I was surprised about how good that single track was. It was technical in the sense of like twisty turny. You didn't really get a lot of speed chances, but I didn't think it was super rough by any means. I don't know how you felt about it.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I rode a hardtail and I was like vacillating, like, you know, do I bring my super cal? Do I bring my pro cal? Like that was a big debate for a lot of people. It's like full suspension or hardtail. There was way more full suspension this year, and where it has like typically, I feel like Iceman's generally like a hardtail race. If you have both options, which I recognize most people don't. But yeah, it was just like, it wasn't super chattery to me. And I feel like it did ride pretty well. I was nervous because I rode up there. I heard that all the single track that was on course, and I slightly panicked. I was like, I'm going to go to Traverse City early. So, because I was in Michigan visiting family, and I'm like, oh no, like if there's anything that's going to help me, it's being familiar with the course, right? So I went up there Tuesday and pretty much rode everything, like the whole course on Tuesday. It was nice weather. It was riding really well. And then on Wednesday, I went and rode, and they got all that snow. And I was like, oh shoot, like this is gonna be a disaster, because the newer trail, like it just gets really muddy and sloppy. So much easier. And the Michigan dirt, is just like that in general relative to other places that I've been racing this year. But yeah, I mean, it was really nice to have it riding so smooth on race day. Like we really lucked out yet again. Just one of these years is going to be bad. We're due for a mud year, I think.
My God. Yeah, we are. I was just talking to Kerry Werner about this and trying to figure out like how many Icemen he had done. And I was like, man, every single one you've done has been perfect. And I was trying to remember how many has this been your third now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So you're in the same boat. Like you've had all great conditions, and it was the one directly before that. 2020 didn't exist, but 19 was a disaster, a complete disaster. Yeah. So I thought maybe this year might be a disaster. I want to go back to the bike, because that was a question I had, and like I like how you put it, because it is the big question: hardtail versus full suspension. And not everyone has a choice, but you did have a choice. That's what you were saying?
Yeah, I did. Yep. So I have the Trek Super Cal, which, that's a great bike for this course. Ruth was racing on that. So I don't think either of those options were bad. But yeah, I had a Super Cal, and then had the hardtail.
Okay. So, and you went hardtail, and then what? And another huge question that everyone likes to debate and talk about is tires. Like what tires? Yeah. What was the width? Like what did you go with?
Oh yeah, I really geek out on tires, and I honestly think like if anyone's like considering Iceman in the future, I mean, the end of the day, the biggest decision you need to think about is tires, more so than the bike. And so, flying here was difficult because I was like, well, it's going to be nice. It's going to be muddy, So I had 4 tire options that I was considering, and I rode 3 of them on the course during the week, and I was testing different tire options. So like my mechanic would come out and we can swap tires if we need to, or adjust pressures, which is really nice. So I made the decision, and I rode a 2.4 prototype WTB tire. And it's similar tread to like an Maxxis Aspen tire, fast rolling. And yeah, that was a great option. I rode I think 17 and a half and 19 and a half PSI front and rear, and no inserts, because it's Michigan, single track. But yeah, I was considering like a 2.1 tire. And then I also had earlier in the week, I was riding on a 2.25 WTB Ranger, which was more grippy. And so for me, it was funny because I put that tire on knowing it wasn't muddy the first day, but knowing it was a lot of single track, and for me, like getting confidence. And so the tires gave me a little bit more grip through some of that stuff. And I think I was able to just kind of get a little bit more confidence. And then, I swapped to the more racy tire. And I still, rode on that quite a bit, but it does corner a bit differently. So
yeah. Do you feel more confident on the wider tires, or you still like to go something with more aggressive knobs for the cornering?
Yeah, I like the wider tires, I think. And ultimately, like, yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to kind of the tire casing and the rolling resistance on a course like this, potentially. Yeah, so those are more of what I'm feeling for when I'm testing tires. And, the weight of the tire sometimes plays a role into that too. Yeah, like I weigh all my tires before I mount them, and I have a log. Yeah, I'm kind of a nerd in that area. Yeah.
Do you ever get super crazy and put different tires up front versus the back? Because I know a lot of people will do like maybe even like a mullet. Or like the reverse mullet with the wider one up front and then the skinnier one in the back. You think about messing around with that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about doing the 2.4 in the front and then the 2.1 in the rear. But I didn't end up doing it just because I didn't love how it, I think I settled on the 2.4 pretty early. But yeah, that's like a good option for people. I think at the end of the day, like you just have to know how every tire corners. And that's the problem with most people is like me, like I have tire sponsors. So I have like, X number of choices, which is nice. It narrows it down. But a lot of people like it can be really overwhelming to like pick a tire. Cause like last year when I didn't have a tire sponsor and I could run whatever, it was almost like more stressful, right? So I always tell people like just get like 3 tires, 2 tires, and just stick with those. Learn how to corner in all terrains, and then you're not all stressed out about the weather and tire choice and all these things.
Yeah, and I mean, and honestly, I mean, the tire thing, like, I feel like there's a group of people that are more so on my end of the spectrum that worry about tires that probably don't need to be worried about tires. Like there's probably like maybe just ride one more day a week or try to get a few more
Right.
hours or, just like it's probably, at the end of the day, it wasn't your tires that like.
Right.
That,
or like what cracks me is like people are vacillating over these tires, but they're not using a digital gauge, So it's like, dialing in your pressure almost is more important than the tire too, I would argue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's cool though. And it's cool that you had the time to go through all these different choices and then feel, I mean, as you know, as a newbie in the mountain bike scene, that confidence is so important, right? And if you didn't believe and if you were not confident in your bike choice, in your tire choice, in all of these choices, that it can mess with your head. And then all of those tight, twisty, turny things that like then you just don't go into it the same way. So that's I'm sure that was beneficial for your overall race, the whole day.
Yeah. And it is so true too, like, especially for mountain biking, like any little bit of doubt or lack of confidence, so to say, whether it's skill or equipment, like it just gets in your head, like I was even like vacillating over a 38 or a 36 front chainring, I'm like 36, 30. I'm like, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't really matter, but yeah, you gotta make a decision.
What'd you go with?
38. Yeah. 38. And I'm glad that I did.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I mean, it was still quick. I mean, even with all that single track, it was you all like laid down a quick time, and you have those points, those huge sections where you need that big gear to really just, and you don't want to be spinning too much.
Right, for sure. And I don't know, I just like, I really like the middle gears. It's just more efficient than being like, in the inefficient gears, I guess, when I'm at speed. So yeah. And for me, like, I like laying the power down when I can. So if that's like a downhill, I want the gear to do it. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter too much. But that was one thing when I was up there earlier in the week, I collected gear data on the 36 and was kind of looking at it and saying, okay, I'm spending this amount of time in the 50, this amount of time, and in this gear. And so you do all the math and say, okay, I have room to add 38. So,
okay,
yeah.
That's cool. You mentioned it before, and I mean, we kind of talked about gear, and but you mentioned something about how it was definitely like a learning experience for you, and there were certain tactics employed by other riders. I'm curious to know more about that and how the women's race went down. You mentioned it that there was a group that was pretty close together, like all the way to the end. But before all that, and before like in the single track and these other sections, like what were some of these tactics that you were noticing? What are some of these lessons that you've learned now on the other side of this year's Iceman?
Yeah, I think like a big takeaway for me is like being assertive and, aggressive, in a way. And so pretty early on in the race, we set a pretty hot pace at the start. With so much single track, I didn't want to be fighting for 20 people to enter first. I'm good with 5 or 6, and knowing the field, I kind of anticipated a small group forming pretty early. And I don't even know like at what point those other riders kind of dropped off. And I think it was partly because I had entered single track, the shorter like one of the first single track sections I entered like, I think 5th wheel, and there was maybe 2 or 3 girls there. Small gap opened up that I was able to close pretty easily, but I think that popped them off. And so I think that kind of happened, whereas like the gap opened up and you weren't, able to close it type of thing. But from pretty early on, it was like the top 5 were separated. So it was me, Erin, Deanna, Haley, and Ruth. And kind of what had happened was there was this long section of single track. And I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was the longest section of single track that was not really passable sections. And I remember thinking like, I have to enter their not 5th wheel. If I enter their 5th wheel, my day's done out of that lead group, And Ruth entered first, and then Haley messed up the turn, kind of hesitated or missed. And I snuck in kind of right there. So then I was 2nd wheel, and then I think Haley was behind me. I don't know exactly who was behind me, but the other, 3 were then behind me. And Ruth's my teammate, right? So it may have looked like I was blocking, which in my mind, I was like, I'm okay with Ruth getting away because, it's Ruth and she's my teammate and not going to necessarily like close a gap to her. Right. But at the end of the day, like that was a long section of single track. And what was happening was just a lot of verbal antics. And this one particular rider has done this a lot in the past and is historically, I think it really bothered me, but I've worked hard to just basically view it as white noise, right? And I don't yell back because at the end of the day, like I'm doing the best that I can for myself and for anyone around me. It's not like I'm intentionally going slow in there, right? Like if you're mad at me, like you really should be mad at yourself for not entering first. If you want to be behind me, like then enter before me, So that was what was cool was that I think in the past, like I just let it bother me, or I'd be like, oh, I don't want to enter first. And this was one of the first races where like, no, like I deserve to be here. If you want to be in front of me, then get in front of me, right? And there were shorter sections of single track that I'd kind of like fight for position, whether it was with Deanna or Erin, and there'd be bars bumping and like a lot of physical contact. And in talking with like at the after party, it was me, Erin and Deanna, and we were all just saying like how aggressive it was. Like all of us were aggressive, and it wasn't like, that's just kind of how the race was the whole time because of all the single track, like the positioning's, really important. So anyways, there were like maybe 2 sections where you could potentially slide in front of someone, but I made sure to like really ramp up the power there so no one could pass me. And I think that furthered frustration. So then, a large gap opened up. Ruth kind of had a lead, but then we were entering that next section after Williamsburg was all Vasa, where it's basically open. And if you have 4 versus 1, like we're probably going to close that down. So that's what happened. We called up to Ruth. And then from there, it was very much like Haley was kind of blocking a bit. Like she definitely wanted control of the race, whether that was to slow it down because she needed to recover or whether that was just her wanting to control things. So anytime, like particularly me, like if I'd go around her on a hill, like she would block me off. So like I either just have to slow up or go off course. So just like things like that or like rotating in a pace line and like, someone dropped, instead of dropping back to the back, like she would just drop off to the side and like have one wheel in front of me. So like either my front wheel is going to contact and I would go down or I have to let her in, So it's just like tactics like that where I'm like, oh, well, that's cute. I'll learn how to address that later, So it's like, okay, this is frustrating me, but I will work on this like this off season. Whereas before, I think it was like, it bothered me more like in the moment, I think when you race bikes, like you have to remember like things aren't personal, even when like they feel like they are. And let's be honest, if you're racing enough against the same people, you have people you just don't like racing, like for whatever reason, right? And that just develops over time. As racers, you kind of have to manage that a bit. And so then from there, like the Vasa section was, I was trying to decide, like, do I launch an attack? Do I wait? Like going into that finishing section, Ruth kind of popped off on one of the climbs. I don't remember which one. And she had been, on the front on her own. So it wasn't, surprised by that. And she had just taken her off season too. Like she's going back to road.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she kind of popped off, and then it was just 4 of us. And I knew that finish section would just not be good for me. Like it was like classic,
Like
you know,
the right after icebreaker, right? Is that the section you're talking about? Or
all of
before
it,
that?
like that. Yeah, like the small section of single track right before Wood Chip Hill.
Okay. Yep.
And last year I kept hitting a tree. So it was like kind of cool that I was able to ride that and like, you know, felt a lot more confident compared to last year. But I entered that 4th wheel, and then that's when a gap opened up, and I kept it tight. Like, you know, they were right there, and I could see Aaron, I could see
Mm-hmm.
Haley, and I was like, oh, I think I can close this, you know, on icebreaker, just, you know, save the legs. But then there's that another section of single track before icebreaker, and it just made this gap larger, right? Anytime I enter single track relative to them, like there will be a gap opening up. So yeah, I tried to hammer up icebreaker, and I think it was like near the top, and my legs were like, yep, nope. Like you're near the top and you're not seeing them, and you're definitely not going to pass them in that techie like fencing finish. So yeah, I just kind of tried to give it my all and be happy with, you know, the progress that I made. So I think I was like 30 seconds back from Deanna in first, even throughout all of that techie stuff at the finish. So big improvements for me. Definitely saw a lot of room for growth. And yeah, I think before I just kind of would let my guard down a bit. Like I was like, I didn't want to hold people back. And so if someone was going to cut me off, then I kind of let them in a way. And this was the first race where I was like, nope, I'm holding my line. Like you can bounce off of me. Right. And there were like a couple physical moments too, where I was like, ooh, that was, you know, that was bad. But I was like, I'm protecting my line. Like I'm not on the wrong here. So yeah, it was just like one of the first races where I was like comfortable being more assertive and aggressive, and kind of had fun with it. Whereas before, like I just don't enjoy that. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to work on it more and see that play out a bit more next year. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, congratulations. 4th place. Awesome. You definitely had a strong race. I was on Wood Chip Hill cheering you all. Like I didn't have a voice, I think, for Sunday or Monday, but going back to what you're saying about aggressive, or, you know, I think it's kind of like what we're talking about with the tires, with confidence, being confident in your gear, and then also being confident in yourself. And when you lose that confidence and like thinking, maybe I shouldn't jump in the single track at this point. Maybe I shouldn't hold my line here. Maybe I shouldn't. That actually becomes dangerous to yourself and others. And, you know, you don't want to ride near someone who's not confident in riding, right?
Right.
And I think it's just that kind of all. And then confidence can become you can start to bring some riding a little more aggressive and being more assertive, and that like you're exactly like what you're saying, then becomes fun, you know, like you're kind of like, this is, you know, just like you were saying, there were moments where Haley may have been kind of controlling things, and then maybe that is when you can also be that aggressive and assertive and being like, no, yeah, you can control this, but I'm going to control this. You know, it's kind of cool to hear those different things. And the tactics are, I'm sure they're so different than, say, a big gravel race where the group is huge and I don't know, you have like 10 people, 20 people together versus you're rotating with 4 people in different types of terrain.
It's so dynamic too. And like one thing, like I think I'm gonna get a camera for my bike next year, or my helmet. I haven't decided which, but for like a race like this, like the footage and like the audio too, like it would be so cool for people to experience that, you know, and to see like what it's like. I think it'd be just a lot of fun for people to, you know, kind of experience that. So yeah, that's one thing I want to kind of maybe try next year.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you're definitely coming back for Iceman then. That's what you're saying.
Oh yeah. I will come back to Iceman until I win it one of these years, hopefully.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know, like, yes, the season was long. I raced, I think 33 or 34 races this year, which is insane.
Yeah.
And you know, I had my race season, and I started racing in February, you know, was doing some road events, you know, and Yeah, I thankfully never really felt burnt out. And I honestly, even if I was burned out, I would never miss an opportunity to race Iceman. Because like I realized it more this year, I think. Michigan's just different, right? Like the people show up. Like it doesn't matter what it's like there. They can be raining and be frigid cold. Like as long as you got beer flowing, like there will be people there. It's just such a cool finishing environment for that to be like in my home state in one of the best finishing races, like with supporters, to be in Michigan. Like you don't think of the Midwest as a cycling mecca, or like Midwest historically doesn't keep cyclists there because of the terrain, right? And so it's
or
just really cool to like
or the weather. Yeah.
yeah, or the weather,
Yeah.
both. So I just think it's so special to like have such a unique and special event there, and a history that it's proven, over time. And I also like it because, they're not they're it's formed organically, right? They're not having influencers come to the race, or I not that I'm aware, like paying people to come. Like it's just people want to be there, and they keep showing up. I will say I was disappointed in the women's field relative to the men's, and I think there's some work there to be done. Like 2 years ago when I first did Iceman, they had that Women Who Shred program, and it was pretty cool because like that was like one of the largest women's field that they've had. So I'd love to see more pro women show up and kind of, not be as disappointing when we line
Yeah.
up after the men.
Yeah.
And I will say Iceman was really receptive to moving the start time back because it's normally 3 minutes. And like I had really advocated to give a bigger gap this year because of the singles track. So that was really cool that they listened and allowed a little bit more time, because normally like the lead women are like 40th place ish roughly, and we end up passing like half of the pro men's field. So it can get a little frustrating. So yeah, I think that increased time helped mitigate that a bit.
Good. Good. Yeah. I was wondering about your uh, relationship to Iceman and how it's probably, I'm assuming it has developed over the years. It's probably, I mean, I'm thinking of when you started it 3 years ago, you lived in Michigan, and you
Mm-hmm.
have developed as a cyclist and changed home bases and all of this. And so Iceman kind of remains the same, and you've kind of moved around. But then, like, I'm wondering is it if your relationship to it has changed, or it's actually like become even more of a thing you want to do now that you're not living in
Yeah.
Michigan, but from Michigan, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it's becoming even more special, and I think a lot of that is like, people are starting to like be supportive of what I'm doing and follow along,
Yeah.
and to have all those people like see me in person, especially like family, like a lot of my cousins were there, my aunt, local friends, my sister, my brother-in-law, like just all these people that were there, and like they don't get the opportunity to like see me in action very often. And so I think it's just like so special because these are my people, these are my friends, like training with different people and then being able to see them finish and have them watch me. It's just, I don't know, I don't think it's ever going to become less special.
Yeah.
And like I said too, like I will always view Michigan as home. Whether my family is there or not, like I lived there for 33 years, and I missed it a lot of the time. So I think just going back and feeling Michigan and feeling the love of Michigan, just is so special. So yeah, I think it's growing to a stronger relationship, I'd say.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I think what you're doing this off season with like focusing on mountain bikes, and I mean, I would love to see a Paige Onweller on hoisting that ice
Ice
trophy.
trophy.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing. And I know I'm not the only one, but I want to close with this question, and it's not so much about Iceman. It's just about your progression as a cyclist. But you had a big season this year.
Mhm.
You were constantly part of in the front for the Lifetime series. Um, heck, you went to Worlds. I mean, that had to be like a once in a lifetime, well, hopefully not once in a lifetime, but still like at this point, like a once in a lifetime experience. Like, goodness, I mean, that pretty incredible. And especially watching from the outside and seeing all these things and seeing you. But and last year was a big season for you. And I'm sure last year there were some things you learned, some important things, but I want to put you on the spot here about this season. And what do you think is one of the most valuable lessons you've learned about yourself as a cyclist this season?
Yeah. So one of the most valuable lessons I learned this year, and also one of the most painful lessons, was that I am not defined by my race results. Last year, I won Big Sugar and I was still working, and I quit my job, sold my house, and I was like, I just won this big bike race, and now I'm not working, and I'm just going to go dominate. Sure. Right. And, it feels good to get a big win. But then I had a lot of bad stuff happen this year in regards to just bad luck or different things. And so some of my targeted races, like 2 of my main races I was targeting, I had mechanicals that, either had me DNF or really limit my results. And so after those events, and those were early season, I really had to question what I was doing with my life as a cyclist. Sure. And I quickly realized that that's not what this is about. And I'm a really competitive person, so I think it's easy for me to focus on that. And so through those losses and to be honest, disappointments, I just realized there's so much more to this than winning. It also made me realize I've had an incredibly consistent year, and I can look at the year and say I didn't win a big race this year. But I was top 5 in numerous high level events. And if you look and you watch the season, I was always in that front mix, in near there. Right. And so to have that consistency across this year, while I was also racing road, stage races, time trial, and traveling all over just to get more experience, for me was huge. So I think the biggest thing is, learning them not defined by the results, but to add to that, to give yourself grace. And as athletes, we're historically very hard on ourselves. And it doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or if you are an age group athlete or just out there trying to get more fit. At the end of the day, your goal is still personal to you. And I think it's we all want something more of ourselves a lot of the times. And I don't think expectation or pressure is bad. I think it's the opposite after the event. If you don't have that grace, over time that adds up and can really just mentally, be disappointing. So yeah, I think there's so many things I learned, but that's probably one of the biggest takeaways as a cyclist, but honestly, also as a person. And it hasn't been easy. It really has not. And I really have to credit my sponsors. And this is not some shameless plug for my sponsors. I just feel I lucked out because the people that I had supporting me this year, were often ones saying don't be so hard on yourself, So I think that was really cool to see. These are the people that want results just as much as me. They're paying me to get results. And when I was disappointed or didn't get those results, they're the ones saying you're doing the best that you can. And in time, these things will work themselves out. So yeah, just, I don't know, long-winded answer, pretty typical for me, but hopefully that answers that.
It does. It was perfect, actually. That's great. And honestly, from my perspective, you said consistent. That's what we see, Paige. We see you're racing consistent, and you've had an amazing season. And congratulations on your season. Congratulations on your Iceman. Congratulations on your off season. Enjoy that, and gaining skills and rest and all of that. And I can't thank you enough for this conversation. you've been on the podcast before, but it's been a long time.
Yeah,
And
it's been a bit.
I was thinking back, Moran, you had a little thing that you talked about your win at the Moran 166, a Michigan race. And then we talked about Mid-South quite a couple years ago. And then I was thinking I rode your mountain bike at Sea
Yeah.
Otter.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Good times. We go way back.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, this was awesome and this was perfect, and it was so great to see you just kicking ass this last weekend. So continue to do it, and
Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on. Yeah, I appreciate taking a little time out of your day. I was talking to you before the race about setting something up, and I mistakenly was like, yeah, it's off season, so you probably got a ton of time. But then, of course, it's cyclocross season now, right?
Exactly.
So where are you heading this weekend or this week?
Thursday I'm flying out to Santa Cruz for cyclocross single speed cyclocross world championships.
So that was a question I had, because it's different than single speed it's different than cyclocross nationals, which am I right that you won single speed nats last year?
You are right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember if that was last year or the year before. But is the Worlds is that kind of like a party race? I remind me what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to describe it is, I'll tell you what's on the schedule of events. So for Friday night, for the pro packet pickup, we were told to show up at a bar at 10 p.m. and be in our kits that will represent our sponsors in, and they will have drinks and kids bikes for us, and that's how we will get our numbers. And that's all we know. And then Saturday is kind of like a all-day alley cat through Santa Cruz, where you collect tokens to qualify for the World Championship race, which is on Sunday. And I'm sure there will be some debauchery along the way. And then and there's always fun shortcuts to be taken in the actual race, where if you take a shortcut, you take a shot, and then you get to cut off part of the course or something like that. Or there's been slip and slides or ball pits, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff.
So I mean, it sounds like fun, but you are also in the middle of or starting cyclocross season, so you've got to is it got to be a balance of fun and actually riding, or do you just kind of totally embrace the fun aspect?
Actually, I haven't done I've done some specific VO2 workouts over the last 2 weeks basically, but besides that I haven't really done any specific cyclocross stuff, so it'll be nice to get on a cross course and remember what that's like, and try to jump some barriers and maybe even dismount and just kind of get a feel for that, because then the next, I don't know, I didn't look at the schedule, but I don't know if there is a UCI CX race this weekend anyway. And so after this weekend will be Hendersonville, which will be my first UCI CX weekend of the year.
How far away is that?
So this weekend coming up is single speed cyclocross world champs, and then the next weekend is Hendersonville.
Oh, okay, very next weekend. Oh, great. Is there last question about cyclocross worlds, but is there also a tattoo feature for those who win, or is that?
Oh yeah, I meant to say there's not a rainbow jersey on the line, but rather the winner of both the men and women's race, they each have to get tattoos.
Okay, I thought that was the case. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, not that I don't want to talk about cyclocross. I don't really know much about it, but I do want to talk about Iceman.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it is, what is it, Tuesday? So it's only a few days removed from what I thought was a killer weekend, an amazing. I don't know. I don't think we could have asked for a better conditions for Iceman, and it just turned out to be pretty incredible. But how many Icemen have you now done?
This past weekend was my third.
Okay, so
which pales in comparison to Brian Motter's now 30.
Insane. I mean, and Brian Motter is kind of like, I kind of consider him to be local-ish for like the Michigan scene. I mean, he's definitely. He
was born and raised in Michigan.
Right, exactly. So, but I mean, they're definitely people that have done every single Iceman year as well. But yeah, so I was trying to remember, because I definitely remember you in 2019. No, wait.
2021. 2020.
21. Sorry. Yeah. I'm getting ahead. But 2021, when Cole Patton won.
Right. Yeah.
And so that would have been your first. Yeah, that would have been your first Iceman. So when I think of the race though, and back to cyclocross, I kind of think that should be a strong suit for you. I mean, is that how you? I mean, I look at like Schwamigan, Iceman. Am I right, or is it not technical enough? You need a little more twisty turny to really like let your strengths shine. What do you think?
No, I like it. The effort's really cool. I like that it's not as technical, because it's just a really fast kind of like group race through the woods, which is like kind of blends like some of my favorite aspects of racing, which is like crit racing and cyclocross all together in one, you know?
Yeah.
I actually thought this year was with the course changes, there was the most amount of single track in the course that I've done since I've like participated in an Iceman. And I was like really stoked for the single track, because there was definitely a speed limit in there, and it wasn't technical like in terms of rocks. There were there was pretty twisty turny, but I think because of that, like you could only go so fast. And so for me, it was actually really nice to like kind of like take a breath in the single track and like regain myself. And so I don't like, if it was single track the whole time, I don't think it would be fun, because there wouldn't be a lot of opportunity for guys to attack and pass and really push the pace, which I feel like dudes were doing kind of like on the in-between kind of double track and road sections in between the single track.
That's cool to hear. I mean, I think the biggest thing that going into this year, everyone was talking about all the single track, the newly cut single track and all this. And I definitely felt that riding earlier in the day, that it kind of slowed everyone down. In fact, like when I was comparing efforts from last year to this year, I was like, man, my heart rate was like way lower. Average heart rate was lower this year than last year. And the only thing I can think of is because of the single track, just because of the way more minutes spent in the single track. But yeah, I was interested to see, or to hear, how that kind of all played out in the pro race as well. But I was actually I kind of expected newly cut, kind of rough single track, but I thought it was pretty smooth. Yeah, it was tight and twisty, but it was enjoyable, way more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I was stoked. I actually would like to do a not so nice man one year. Like, it'd be fun to do an Iceman where the weather just kind of opened up on us and like it was really gnarly. Every year I've done it so far. I mean, I did wear arm warmers this year, but I definitely didn't have to. Like, I could have done it in shorts and short sleeves, which is what I've done it the past 2 years. So,
I mean, and I think every year there's a nice man, we say that, we're due for a bad one, but I can't believe that we've gotten away with 3 straight years of decent weather. Let me back up a little bit, because we talked at the expo, the Ice Cycle Expo. Was that the first year you've done a whole day before at the expo?
Yep. Yeah, the last 2 years I was able to fly in and then kind of just do the race, but it was kind of nice because it was also the first year I stayed at the host hotel, the Grand Traverse Resort and Hotel there, which was really convenient and made the weekend like run really smooth. In the past 2 years, I kind of went to Iceman with a friend from Chicago who had a friend that had a condo at the old Sugarloaf Mountain, so it was like 45 minutes away
Oh
from
gosh.
Traverse City.
Yeah.
So it just made for like a pretty hectic weekend driving back and forth for pre-ride and getting your packet and just all of that.
Yeah. Logistics, it being a point-to-point logistics, kind of get a little, I don't know, difficult, especially when you're talking like 5,000 riders. I'm sure like there's a lot more people cleared out by the time you guys park at the start, but yeah, it does get kind of difficult. You've been doing kind of the expo thing for a lot of races this year with bike flights. What do you think of that schedule? You're kind of working, you're kind of on the clock, but I would assume that it's got to be, I don't know, a bit encouraging or neat to meet a lot of different people that come by that recognize you and wish you luck for the day after. It's probably, I'm guessing, tires you out a little bit. It has to. I mean, I was at the expo too all day. Standing on your feet for 12 hours isn't necessarily like the best thing to do before a race, but there's got to be some pros, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's bittersweet, but it is like it's super encouraging and sometimes like doing the vlogs and like doing that whole bit of social media can get a bit old and stale and like just kind of don't want to do it for a while. But for sure, like standing at the expo and having people like way more people than I expect every time, like coming up and just saying how much they like the videos and asking about Sherman and just like it's really cool and it like makes me feel like part of the cycle, like the greater cycling community, and it just kind of like it all comes like full circle for me, and it like helps me kind of stay motivated to keep doing videos and like keeping people in the loop and yeah, so it is pretty enjoyable in that sense.
Well, I mean, and I was going to ask you about your videos, because certainly it's good for you, it's good for your sponsors, but it is like I'm sure when you're at these bigger events and you see a lot of people, you do realize how beneficial it can be for way more than just for yourself, I guess. And I mean, I see like there's a dedication for training. There's a dedication to be a pro cyclist, but then like, man, how quickly you get out these videos. I mean, there's like an extreme dedication to get these things out. I mean, you already have the one out for Iceman. I mean, that's crazy fast editing and quick turnaround. So it's commendable to see how much content you put out. And it is helpful to just kind of like spread the stoke of all these different races you're going to and just people wanting to ride bikes and be healthy.
Yeah, I mean that's like why it's a big reason why I do it for sure. I keep it going because it is like at this point I've built a bit of a following, and so it's nice to like keep the fans engaged. So it kind of gives sponsors something, like shows them kind of my marketability. But I also just like have a lot of fun at a lot of the races, and so like I like to show people that like going to races is not, it doesn't have to be super serious, and it can be fun, and it's like easy to do logistically, even for something like Iceman. So, yeah, yeah, it kind of probably not as much of that element as like a how-to, but I feel like you can pull little details out like that on like how to do all the races that I go to based on my vlogs.
Sure. And I don't necessarily look at what you're doing as like a how to compete or how to finish or how to whatever. But it is like, you're going around picking different cereals, eating. I mean, that yeah, we live in a very like, what is it? The marginal gains kind of world. And when you see people that are at the front just eating cereal and just having a good time, it's refreshing. So it's cool to see that kind of stuff. Anyways, we're kind of getting on a tangent, and I do want to talk about Iceman, but I think we were chatting a little bit at the expo about bike choice, and before you kind of talked about, well, you picked the Kona Hey Hey. That's the mountain bike that you have. You don't have a hardtail, I believe that's what you said.
Right.
In the past, you have run drop bars. On the other side of the race, how do you feel about your bike choice?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's kind of, I think it was the right bike choice for me. I don't think it was necessarily the right bike choice for the race. I think the race like is for sure like an XC hardtail, as light as possible, 100 mil fork kind of race. The lighter the bike, but like being able to run, proper mountain bike tires is, I think, important. Maybe not in all years. The first 2 years, I think the drop bar bike was fine, but with more single track, I think it's just like a bit easier to navigate the single track with like a more mountain bike setup, and or at least like for me, be able to like feel comfortable enough to like kind of recover on the single track sections instead of like feeling fully pinned the whole time, which is kind of how I felt last year on the drop bar bike. Yeah, I think like if my Libre, which is the gravel bike, if it could fit a bigger tire, or rather, let me back up. I think if I could, I think the best bike, even for this past year, would have been like a hardtail mountain bike with like 225 tires, 100 mil fork, and I probably would have run drop bars because I just really like being like a drop bar guy in the mountain bike field. It makes navigating the group really easy, just because everybody's on like 700 mil bars, and when you're on 400 mil drop bars or whatever, like you can just like shoot gaps really easily and stay safe. And a lot of the single track at Iceman is pretty tight, and it's not super fast, so also not very technical. Like the technicality comes from the turns, not really rocks or roots. So I think like having a drop bar bike and being able to like move it around a bit more in the single track, especially the finished single track, it was super tight in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so being able to like move your bike around more, I think, is beneficial as well.
Yeah. What is there a reason? Because I mean, famously or infamously, you threw drop bars on your not on your Libre, on your Hey Hey for Schwamigan. Is there a reason that you decided against that for Iceman?
Yeah, basically it's just like it takes too long. Like I got to cut brake lines, I got to redo shifting cables and stuff. So just it didn't seem to make a lot of sense for it just wasn't worth its weight.
For Schwamigan, or to do again, or was it just like
I think,
was it an experiment that maybe
Schwamigan was an experiment and I kind of was like, okay, now I get that, like I see how that worked. And for what it took to do that, and what the bike rode like, and my experience on it, it just didn't seem like it was worth it to do it again.
Gotcha. I mean,
maybe maybe if I had a different bike that was set up specifically as a drop bar mountain bike. The other thing is like the Hey is a 120 bike, so like it doesn't feel super fast and snappy as a drop bar bike. I think maybe if you had something like a bit more on the XC side of the spectrum, and for me to have that bike and then like have it just always set up with drop bars, like that might be cool as a go-to bike for like Iceman or like a Schwalmingen type race. But to like switch a bike back and forth, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing that from Schwalmingen. It looked kind of funny. I mean, you don't see many full squish, especially like 120 with drop bars. So it was definitely an interesting thing to see. But yeah, cool. I mean, just wondering. So what tires did you ride then for Iceman?
I had the Maxxis Aspen 2.4 in the front and then a 225 in the rear.
Okay. Happy with that choice?
Yeah, very happy. I felt really, really good on the single track, and I felt like I said, I was able to like relax on the single track and actually recover a bit and like gather myself. And I think that was because of the bike choice and tire choice, and all that kind of came together to just like allow me to feel that way.
Can you take us through a few sections of the race? I mean, kind of starting at the end. It's crazy to see. Was it like 11 people finish within 20, 30 seconds of each other? It was a huge group finishing.
I think if you take the race and go to that very last corner,
yeah.
I think everybody came into that last corner within 15 seconds of each other.
And then just kind of spread each other out.
Well, just until the crashes happened, and then like people got back up and crossed the line. But yeah, it was like I'm actually, after we get off the podcast recording here, I'm gonna make my race recap live, and I've got video showing like uncut of the last 2K of the race in it, and you could just, I mean, like up until basically Icebreaker Hill, like everybody was all within 10 seconds of each other.
That's crazy.
So it's awesome.
So the one of the best places to for us to watch the pros is wood chip before a lot of that. I mean, you're probably, I don't know how many miles out, only a couple miles or something. And that's when, there's no barrier, but there was a ton of people cheering you up wood chip hill. And that's where we've gone the last couple years. And usually
can you help me clarify which one is wood chip? Is it the one that's like maybe 3 miles out?
So this year, and I think I'm correct, but this year it was, I think you were in the woods on some single track, and you did an immediate left onto wood chip, and it's when there was a ton of people.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's the one like basically right before Icebreaker Hill.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. And that's where we like to congregate and cheer everyone that goes by. This year, it was so wild how big of a group came up wood chip together, and we were.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we all hit that section of single track within 10 seconds of each other.
And I remember like turning to people. We were talking like, usually that's the best place to be, because you see, and we're like, maybe the best place to be was right at the finish. And we said this before we even knew of the carnage that happened at the finish. So I feel like the best place to spectate was like right near the finish to see, I mean, unfortunately a little bit of carnage, but anyways, like wood chip is still a fun section of it to spectate. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was wild how many of you were together. Did it stay together basically, or were there spots where it broke up a little bit? You had to chase. How did that go?
Yeah, I think there was really only one point on the course where the front group got thinned to like maybe less than 10 riders, but it was never less than like 8. So maybe like 6 or 8 miles in, there was a pretty significant climb that went right into a pretty good single track section. And it was either Andrew Lesperance or Alexei Vermeulen or both of them like really lit the fire there and pushed into the single track. I actually found myself in trouble, like dangling maybe 3 to 5 seconds off the back of the group there with Brian Motter behind me. And luckily, like Brian came around me and I was able to like jump on his wheel and he pulled me back onto the group. But that was like a moment, that was a tense moment. And then basically from that point on, like I remember and I have video of like the group recollecting after that and having a moment of reprieve. And then like you look back and there's nobody there and there's maybe only 8 of us or so, maybe 1 or 2 less. But and then like within a minute, a couple dudes just started like piling on to the back of the group. And then the group from there to the end of the day was basically the same.
Okay. And then I mean, for those who rode it know that like there's the famous hills, wood chip, icebreaker, and then there's always some weird like twisty, turny situation before you get to the end. And this year it was especially twisty and turny, especially right at the end. Will you kind of explain what happened at the end, like literally meters before the finish?
Yeah, there was a straight away, and then maybe, I don't know, 100 meters before the finish, maybe even less than that, there was a right-hand turn, a 90-degree right-hand turn, and it was kind of like a little 3-foot bump up onto pavement, 90-degree right-hand turn. And I think from like all the traffic before us, and the soil in that area is very sandy. I think like a lot of that really gritty, small soil got tracked up onto the pavement. And so when you approach that 90-degree corner, you bump up onto the pavement and you have like a bit of a light front end. And then it's pavement. So you think like, okay, I have grip now. And so you really push through the corner. And as soon as you think you can push, the front wheel just was washing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure people have seen the video of Orshaw washing out, and then Lesperance, like he came in like Mario Kart hit the banana peel, and then I did the same thing. And so yeah, 3 of us in the top 10 all crashed on that last corner.
Oh man, it's a bummer for sure. And I know, I mean, all the age group waves go like, hours before that, and finishing, I mean, I knew it was a tight, I wasn't going at it with nearly as much speed, but then talking to people, like, I think people were spilling on that like all day. It was, it was just a tough corner for sure.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good raspberry on my kneecap from that.
And didn't Wakely run into you or something? That was you guys kind of mixed it up a little bit there.
Yeah, well, I just came around him in the straight before that corner, and then he was right on my wheel. He was probably ready to sprint me, but he was on the outside of my wheel. So when I crashed, I took him into the fence with me.
Jeez. Do you think there's any, I mean, so say like the 2 of you or anyone going through that, and I'm thinking specifically of, Alexei's on the wheel of who crashed first?
Tyler Orshaw.
Yeah, like, do you think there was enough space for someone to get around after that? Or do you think that was like where you came around that corner was basically where you probably were going to finish?
I think for the most part, the latter is true. I think like maybe it would be possible, but I think that it would have to be the situation where like you just emptied the tank getting to that corner and you just didn't have the pop. And like if you messed that corner up or like somebody just played it better than you and then was able to like, because it kind of dog-legged after the corner too. It wasn't like the corner and then straight to the finish.
Sure.
So as long as you stayed on the inside, you probably would get it. But I think maybe like if somebody in front had just like completely gassed themselves, maybe somebody from behind that had one more match to burn, maybe they could have come around.
Yeah, it's wild how, I mean, it's not that Iceman's not a super long race, but then how it just can come down to the very end, the very last sprint, of course. Like, but it's it's wild.
I love it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, what's your? I mean, it was definitely fun, dynamic race this year. This is your third year. For people in Michigan, Iceman is special. It's something we look forward to every year. It's the end of the season for a lot of people. It's a time where we party in the woods and get to cheer on these pros from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. You being an outsider to Michigan, like how do you view it now? I mean, 3 times you've done it. I think you've been top 10 each time. What's your take? I mean, are you going to continue to come back? Is it one of the things you look forward to, races you look forward to?
Yeah, honestly, it's one of my, for sure, in the top 5, maybe top 3 favorite races of the year. I just the energy surrounding Iceman, like you said, like being an outsider, being able to come in to all of that hype that everybody, like thousands of people bring to that event. Coming up Icebreaker Hill at the end of that race is like, it like gives me goosebumps. Like it's like being at a cyclocross world championship, but it's just like this kind of random race in Michigan. and it's awesome. And I mean, like, then of course, like, the prestige of hoisting the ice trophy, like one of the most unique trophies that there is out there, like being able to throw that over your head, like, yeah. And I think like the fact that the race is so short and so fast and so tactical, like, it's like when you win a race like that, it's almost like you had a perfect race. So it's like when you win that race, it really means a lot. It's like that's what you're chasing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool to hear. I mean, cool. I mean, of course, we love it in Michigan, but it's cool to see people like you come in and be pumped about it and then have great things to say about it. I get, and maybe we don't have to have this huge conversation, but there is a like, I'll call it like a lifetimification of American racing, which is I think is positive for a lot of reasons. But then I see a race like Iceman that's just kind of over here on the side that it's doing its own thing and it's still very popular, and I hope that those two things can exist in the world of American bike racing, American mountain biking, American whatever off-road racing. That
separately.
Yeah, separately. Yeah, separately. I even wonder this year, like, I don't know. I didn't see a Cole Patton. I didn't see, like there's some, like, I'm worried that people had, they were done with their season. They wouldn't, but I don't know. I mean, it's like, and I just use him as an example, but, I hope that, Iceman can continue to thrive as it has been, and pros like you will continue to come in from the outside and make it, continue to make it such a exciting thing for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even with Lifetime being so full on, you still get like Les Bronce was in the series, myself, Alexi. Like, I think you'll still get a handful of dudes every year that just like really, just like really enjoy, like have been exposed to it. Like just get why it's such an awesome race, and they'll be back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see a race like Iceman losing its lore, you know?
Yeah. Hope so. Long live Iceman for sure. And again, we love it that like pros like you come in and enjoy it and race their heart out. And I would love to see you with that ice trophy. That's for sure. Keep coming back. I want to see it happen.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks, Kerry. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you around. And good luck with cyclocross season.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Jake, are you drinking a beer right now?
The first of many.
Okay. Well, then, cheers, man. I'm gonna open up one.
Definitely.
I don't want to leave you hanging. Just, new friends don't let new friends drink alone. So
No, that's right, dude. I gotta lube up the pipes here.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool. Are you all recovered from the crazy weekend?
Yeah, I think so. I was like, I came down with some kind of like sinus infection or something that was like on the doorstep the day before the race. So I was like, I've never been so diligent about medication as I was on the Friday before Iceman. And I think if I would have gone home after the race and hydrated and relaxed and ate some healthy food and gone to bed early, I probably would have recovered just fine, but I didn't do any of those things.
Instead of chug podium beers and
like I'm not going to not do that.
Well, Jake, I think I was messaging you earlier, but I wanted to get a few different perspectives of Iceman, and we were kind of talking at the finish, but I interviewed Paige Onweller, and a Michigan favorite, 4th place, crazy good ride. I've been wanting to interview Kerry Werner for a while, and I thought this would be a good excuse. So we talked about the men's race and how crazy that was. But what I think the people really want to hear about, and that they will tune into this episode, is the crazy battle for 4th and 5th 40-year-old men's podium position that you and I took part in.
That's what the people want. Let's give them what they want. If they want to hear about Kerry Werner, they can go to his YouTube channel and listen to talk all day.
But yeah, man, it was it turned out to be myself speaking one of the more enjoyable Iceman experiences because kind of because of that end and because of battling it out with you. There's a couple other guys I knew, but you in particular I knew was in my age group. And when I saw you go by me at the end, I was like, oh shit, I need to make sure and stay on his wheel and, limit the damages there. But yeah, however, maybe we need to back up and start at the beginning. But anyways, I found that to be extremely enjoyable to actually Iceman is crazy. I'll let you talk, I promise. Iceman is crazy because there's so many people and you don't know half of them. But when you actually are able to catch, when you actually recognize people in it and know that they are in your age category and that you're competing against them, then it becomes very, very interesting. So I don't know, how'd your day go? Let's go back to when we're talking at the start line and we see each other on the start line and you had some words of wisdom. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I always joke with some of my buddies that I have an ability to see the future in totally useless ways. And I feel like this story is going to prove that is right. It doesn't help me at all. But so yeah, I rocked up to the start line, what I thought was plenty early, 20 minutes before the wave went off. But as we rolled up, it was like the whole wave was there ready to go. I think we went off at 9:18 and this was before 9. So
yeah, wave 2.
Yeah, I did the thing everybody hates, which I'm like, well, I'm not going to the back. So like I kind of like muscled my way in sort of to what looked like a decent spot. I didn't even see you at the time. I just kind of tried to find an opening. And then when I got settled, I looked over and you were standing right there. I was like, oh, hey, let's go. And I assume you did not have the opportunity to pre-ride, which is why you were asking me about the finish.
The finish, yeah. No opportunity. A lot of that was, well, I mean, all the new single track was new, and then I knew they change up the finish every year, so yeah, that was all new to me.
Yeah, so you would ask me about my thoughts on the finish. I did have the chance to go pre-ride on Friday night, and unlike last year, where when you were talking about I was coming on after Paige and Kerry, I was like, well, that's really anticlimactic. Much like that, last year the finish I thought was anticlimactic because we came up icebreaker and there's all that excitement and everybody's cheering, and then they toss you into this bumpy single track that you can barely move on, and then you pop out and you climb the wood chip and then you kind of finish. That was last year. This year, when you topped out icebreaker, what I was telling you was you want to be in whatever position you want to finish the race in. That's where you should be when you top out icebreaker, because you get tossed. Actually, I think what I said was, unless you do something really dumb afterwards, like punch a metal barrier, where you're at the top of icebreaker is going to probably be like where you're going to finish relative to the people around you. Because once you get to the top, you get tossed into the barriers right away, and it's tight and it's twisty, and there's really not much of an opportunity to pass after that. So it's kind of like empty the tank, going up that hill, because that's pretty much going to be the end of it. So yeah, I share those thoughts with you and one other guy there that kind of was battling with us all day on the start line.
Yeah. And then, the race goes, and it was pretty fast right away. I thought, I knew wave 2 would be quick. How'd you feel about the pace at the beginning? I feel like maybe you paced yourself a little better than I did. I went out pretty hard, but
Kind of on accident, actually. We were together-ish, because I had kind of marked you ahead of time because I knew you were in my age group, and I knew you had podiumed last year, and you seemed like you were having a good year this year. And I thought, well, that's a guy that I should probably hang on to, and if I wanted to get on the stage at the end of the day, because that really was the goal. And so once we left the airport, we were on that 2-track that runs north for about a mile before you jump into the single track.
Yep.
And there were 2 lines. They had built up a berm in the middle of that 2-track so people couldn't jump left to right. And there were 2 lines, and we were rolling like 30. Like you were right. We were hauling.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I was on the left-hand side, and we hit a little bit of sand, and somebody locked it up. And so I actually came to like a screeching halt. I almost went over the bars, like bailed off into the field to the left, and it felt like the entire wave went by me in like the 3 seconds that I was standing still. So so if you were ahead of me on the left or on the right, that's where some separation I think occurred, because I didn't see you again until we crossed Williamsburg Road, maybe. And the first time I remember seeing you was on Anita Hill around, what is that, mile 23 or 24.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew for sure it was you, and it made me happy. It also made me very sad, because I was happy that I could see you, but I was sad because I knew I had a legitimate chance of maybe running you down, and I knew it was really going to hurt.
Man, I know that feeling when it's like I could just roll this in, but now I actually have to work for it because there's something on the line a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And your point's a good one. You do a lot of these races and you get to the end, and it kind of seems like, yeah, you just kind of roll into the finish. Like you're not sure if you're fighting for position.
Yeah.
You really have no idea. And so it was kind of neat. Like once we did kind of link up with however long it was to go, to know like we could potentially be battling for the last, because you don't know, like it could have been the last spot on the stage.
Yeah, I think that was the thing is, it could have been you were on the 5th position and I was off the podium, or vice versa. There was no way to know that, but what we did know is we were both in the same age group. So, what how many Icemans is this for you?
Number 3 for me. So
Okay.
in three, so 21 was number 1. That was like a wave. I couldn't even tell you 30 something
Mm-hmm.
start. And
That's
then
it.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good move up. Yeah, like yeah. What was it last year? Sorry.
Last year was 4. So bumped up from 38 to 4, and then eventually up to 2 this
Okay.
year. Which I was really happy about. And a lot of people, it's funny, everybody is invariably going to bitch about their wave position in their first Iceman. I think rightfully so, because if you're a good rider who trains a lot, your finish is not going to be commensurate with your ability, most likely. If you have to pass 1,000 people. But I always tell people that day when coming out of wave 38 is maybe the most fun I've ever had on a bike, because there's no expectations. You just hammer when you can hammer. You pass a billion people.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun. And then, you get the after party at the end. So,
That's cool. So I was in wave 4 last year as well. And even with wave 4, I don't think and maybe I know more people now, but like it was still like I just was racing kind of a bunch of people I didn't recognize.
right.
This year, because I mean, we knew each other a little bit, we had that conversation, and then there were a couple other people in our wave that we were kind of jumping each other, like jumping around each other the whole time. It's like there's like this guy Brandon Bender, the one of the rad dudes, and he came up by me about midway, and I'm like, man, he's having a great race. And he kind of went by, and I jumped on his wheel, and he gave me all this motivation to just like really just pick it up a little bit. And then this dude Nick Beard, who's kind of does some of the real endurance stuff, and I just raced with him the week before at Lowell. He's been having a great year, and I saw him like kind of the same time that I saw you. I saw Brandon Bender and Nick Beard. It's like, this is really fun, because now these are 3 dudes that I know are strong, and we're just kind of like I don't know, trading pulls a little bit, but kind of in the same group. And it was a different type of enjoyable than just passing a bunch of people,
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's funny you mentioned Nick, because I know we've he's from Grand Rapids area. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure where exactly. And I know we've ridden some of the spicy group rides around here together in the past, but I couldn't place him. Him and I battled the whole day. I mean, we were back and forth literally every 2 minutes. All of a sudden he would come around, then I would go around him. And I think he ended up finishing a few seconds ahead. But one of my buddies'
he had a
wives,
strong finish. He did.
yeah,
He was pushing up every hill and really pushed, like the group we were in. I think at the end he was really pushing all of us, and then right towards the end, I think he kind of got away from us for a few seconds. But yeah, he was strong.
So one of my buddy's wives was at the hill before Williamsburg Road, which is a pretty good climb. It's short, but it's like all the climbs on Iceman, short but punchy. And she took a video, and it's me and this other guy who turned out to be Nick, just like hammering up this climb. It's like a really cool video. And so I actually looked his race number up afterwards, found out who he was, and sent him the video and just say, hey, good job. Like, here's this awesome video, of us just like, for us hammering up Williamsburg.
Yeah, that's cool.
But you're right. I saw Bender as well late in the race. My buddy Travis, who was on the line with us, him and I battled all day. It was so cool, like to be in it, like you said, with going fast for something meaningful with people is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. But then it kind of came down to the end that going back to how you can tell the future. So we get, there's wood chip, and I think you put a little bit of time in me on wood chip, and I knew that icebreaker was coming up, and given your words at the starting line, I knew that I had to potentially pass you or be right next to you on icebreaker, and we got up to icebreaker, and you were probably a good, I don't know, like 10 feet off of me or something. I mean, there was a rider in between us and then a little bit more. But I was like, here's my chance. Here's where I empty it. And my guess is you probably were thinking the same thing, right?
Oh yeah. So I don't remember exactly when I did go around you, if it was on wood chip or if there was another little rise between the single track after wood chip and then the single track before icebreaker.
Okay.
But I do remember going around you right before we went into, I feel like it was that last single track before you pop out at the base of icebreaker, thinking like, I need to put bodies between us. Like I need to take advantage of, hopefully I get around some roadie or something from wave one who can't ride single track and slows Trevor down so I can gap him, going into the base of icebreaker. Cause I felt good, but the last thing I wanted to do was like a heads up sprint, for something maybe meaningful going up icebreaker. And so when we get to the bottom of the single track, you kind of do I don't know if it's a 180, but I glanced back and I saw the two people that I told at the start line be in a good position where you want to be at the top of icebreaker. We're like on you and my buddy Travis were both on my ass. And I was like, well, that's great.
What age group was Travis in? Do you know? I mean, he wasn't 40, but
he's young. He's
okay.
like, he's in a fast age group because I think he was like 7th in his age group.
Oof.
And he's like he's like 32, 33, maybe.
Side note, I saw some age groups like, I want to say like 45, where I don't think you or I would have been on the podium. Like, and that's crazy how some of these, like some of the older you get, the faster, some of these times get.
I hypothesize about the reason for that. I think it's the same reason you don't see a lot of guys in their 20s. We're talking about amateurs, certainly, but like,
yeah,
you don't see a ton of guys in their 20s because you don't need it, but having a lot of time and, maybe a little bit of financial security doesn't hurt to be good at this sport. And so I think that's one thing where as you get older, maybe you get a little bit more time and flexibility in your job. If everything works out the way it should, you should have more money. And so, yeah, I think that I turned 40 this month. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. I move up in age group in most races. Theoretically I should get faster. But like the 48-year-old age group, they came out with the passivity stats today. I don't know if you had a chance to look at those. And there was a guy in the 48 age group that missed the podium who beat us by like 40 seconds.
That's crazy. Oh, yeah. I saw that. Yeah. It was like, he like won an anti-award for missing the podium by the closest amount or something. Yeah.
I'm sure that made him feel really good.
Yeah. I'm with you though. It is a luxury, right? Or, like cycling is one of these like sports that it definitely is like it's a privileged sport, and kind of the older you get and the more time you have, the more money you have, the more you can put into the time. And I totally get that. Anyways, so I definitely was behind you in the single track before icebreaker, and that's that super tight, twisty, kind of a little annoying, but it's fine. And then we get onto icebreaker, and I know this is my chance. And again, I'm not sure if we're battling for 3rd and 4th. I'm not sure if we're battling for 5th and 6th. I'm not sure if we're battling for 8th and 9th. Like, who knows where we are. But what I did know is there were 5 guys in our age group in wave 1. So that could have been that could have been the podium there. I had no idea. But what I did know is I had to stick with you, and no matter where that left us, like, you were my mark, and I had to get up to you. We're going up icebreaker, and I kind of felt like I could close the gap. I thought I had a little bit left in the tank. Like you said, you wanted to make a little bit of room for that whole finish. You didn't want to maybe cut that last turn going a little too fast and like so many other people did. Yeah,
some of the other people you interviewed today did.
Yeah. But but so I was thinking, you know, I have a chance to at least get on his wheel, but maybe get around him. And I think you said it was that Travis who you had also told about this was more so on your wheel than I was.
Yes.
And I'm trying to go around him on the left. And I think maybe he's trying to go around you on the left as well. But we both decide to go left. And I get squeezed into the barrier and smash my left hand into the barrier. And I'm going to be off the bike for a little bit, actually.
Ooh.
It's totally broken. I didn't realize it at the time, but so I smash into it. It stops me completely. I'm off the bike. Rob got some great pictures of me trying to like remount the bike at the time, and so I think that pretty much solidified your fourth place at the time. And then I was looking at the times within wave 2 because there was a few dudes with us, and I kind of rolled in at the end of that group, but we were all within a few seconds. But that definitely dropped me back all the way behind all of them. But it was a little unfortunate, but it was a stupid mistake, but it is what it is. I was going for the hole that wasn't there, basically. But
yeah, I mean obviously that's a bummer that you're going to be out of commission. Good, I guess it's a good time to be out of commission if there is such a thing. But
man, when there's a battle for 40-year-old podium, I mean, you do what you got to do, right?
Hell yeah, you do.
I forgot to say this part, but I lost my left contact like right away. We were that part where we're going like 30 miles an hour, like in the complete open, like getting out of the airport. All that air was getting to my eyes, and I just couldn't see. And we're probably for like 5 miles, my vision was so blurry, and I really thought I was overreaching. I thought I was just like, what am I doing? I can't hold this the whole time. I can't see anything, you know, I'm breathing real heavy. And then I started to kind of do the one eye thing, and I realized, oh, I can't see out of my left eye whatsoever. I have terrible vision. So without that, it was like, so all that new single track, I'm kind of doing the one eye thing, trying to get around it. And I think that, at least I'm blaming that because I was trying to go around on the left, my depth perception on that side wasn't the best, and hence I smashed into the barrier.
Yeah, man, you're like Derek Zoolander. You can't go left. Just the way it goes. You can. It's the way it goes.
Which I don't recommend, especially this year with all the single track. I do not recommend doing that with one good eye. It was I actually thought any sort of issue would have happened way earlier than it did, but I waited till the very end.
Yeah. So, going up that hill, it's funny. You hear a lot about Icebreaker Hill at the end, whatever. And I remember the first time that I went up it, I was pre-riding it, and I thought, this is whatever. I'm going to crush this hill tomorrow. But then when you get there at the end of the race, you're like, oh God, just get me to the top of this fucker,
Dude, it's 100%. I think all of those, I mean, you talk about wood chip, Icebreaker, and then there's just like other hills there that they may have names that I'm not aware of, but all of those, I mean, I'm not sure if you run with a power meter, but it was almost like Zwift power, where you're just constantly on the power the whole time, and your legs are pretty shot. And even though it's a less than 2-hour effort, around a 2-hour effort, it's hard. It's definitely one of the harder efforts of the year for me.
I was intrigued. You were sharing some of your power data at the finish. So I typically do ride with power meter, but I stripped it off for this race in favor of a bigger chain ring that wasn't compatible with that particular power meter, just to save a little bit of weight. So I was running without power, which in a mountain bike race you don't look at during the race anyway, but you do nerd out on it, afterwards. And so I was interested to hear what your power numbers were, just to get some perspective, on how hard maybe the day. only how hard the day was for you. I mean, it doesn't necessarily translate, to me, but logic would dictate it probably does a little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you said you were like, your normalized was around 300 or something, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was. And I was actually a little surprised by that, given all the single track.
Yeah, right.
And I looked back at last year, and those numbers were pretty spot on together, which is kind of crazy so that's telling me that I probably went harder in the non-single track spots this year than I did last year. And it was a slower result. It was a little longer, much more single track this year, but overall, I think it was a pretty comparable effort. You had, I mean, and I do remember saying this at the end. I'm not sure, like, breaking my hand or not, I'm not sure I would have gotten around to you. I probably would not have gotten around to you. When you went by me at the end, I was like, man, Jake's on a ride today, and he's flying, and I pretty much knew that you were probably gonna take it. But you had a great ride, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, you must had been kind of working towards Iceman this year, because it showed. You were riding super strong.
Yeah, thanks, man. So this was the first year where I thought it could all come together at Iceman. The first year you're handicapped because you're in wave 50 or whatever. And then last year, the big bogey for me was Margie. And that came, in the middle of September. You bounced back from Margie phenomenally. Like, you need to stop calling yourself and not a mountain biker, because if you, finish that the way you did and then podium at Iceman, doing that double is really hard. Like, I was hurt coming off of Margie last year. I took a couple of weeks off. The fitness it wasn't like I wasn't fit, but it just wasn't, the pointy end of things was just not there for me last year. This year, the big race for me was Coast to Coast, which was in June. And that provided a ton of time between then and Iceman to kind of sharpen up. And you're right, this was the goal. The goal was to have a good race and to get on the stage. And so it couldn't have been more stoked. I was scared to look at my phone at the finish. Luckily, I didn't have to, because you like abracadabraed yours out of nowhere. And you're like, hey, we're in 4th and 5th now. I hope it sticks. And it turns out that it did. But I didn't look at it again until, after I dropped my bike, got my bag, took a shower, grabbed a beer. And then I felt comfortable kind of taking a look at the results and saw that, yeah, it held up. So I was beyond. We joke about it like, yeah, it's the 40-year-old podium, race for 4th and 5th. But I mean, it's super cool to be on the stage like that at a race like that with guys that are super fast. Like, I was so stoked.
Heck yeah. I mean, I think there's nothing better than Iceman. I mean, it's just the coolest vibe, the coolest race, coolest experience. And then to be able to get on that stage and just be up there. I mean, it's awesome. And yeah, you had a little bit of a buffer between, like, say some guys came a little faster towards the later waves. Like, the first one that was going to be kicked off that podium was me this year. So,
right.
so hence why I was like looking at it right away. I looked at it about every 30 seconds after that until I was on the podium. So they can't kick me off now. I'm on here.
Right.
Finally, I do want to, last year when I was on the podium, it was a kind of a just by happenstance, when I got onto the podium, my buddy Scott was coming up with a beer, and this we didn't plan it. He just he got me a beer at the beer tent, and then all of a sudden I was up on the podium, so he just handed it to me while I was up there, and there were some encouraging ladies up front that were yelling "chug" while I was up there last year, and so I thought, like, I got to chug, right? I got to chug this beer. So I chugged the beer. It was probably one of my favorite moments of my life. And then we were talking beforehand. I was like, Jake, man, we got to both chug this beer, right? Like we got to chug beers on the podium. That's why we're up there. We got to chug these beers. And then the more I started to think about it, I was like, we can't leave everyone out.
No.
And the podium started. They were at like men 28 to 29. I'm like, we got a ton of time. We don't have to worry about it. Then all of a sudden, they were at like men 35. And I was like, oh, crap, we don't have enough time to get beers. And I asked my buddy Scott, I was like, hey, go get some beers. Go get some beers. We need 5 of them. Get 5 beers. And it got to a moment, and we were like standing right before we went up on the podium. And I was like, Jake, it's not happening, man. We're not getting beers. There's no way. They call our names up. We go up, no beers. And then through the crowd, in the distance, I see Scott Richard with 3 beers in his hand. He's like, out of my way. And and he parts the crowds like Moses and and hands us these beers. And right at the end, we were able to hand all these beers off, and a few of us chugged them. We all had a big drink. I mean, it was definitely podium beers shared by all of these 40-year-olds but it still was one of the greatest moments ever.
Oh, it was phenomenal. So I have a couple of funny takes on this. So we were in line to get our medals before we hopped on the podium, and that's when you had kind of suggested like, hey, and I knew you had done that last year, and I kind of thought this might be coming. So I was prepared.
Okay.
And you're like, yeah, I feel like, we need to keep the tradition going. So I was like, yeah, don't threaten me with a good time. Like, I'm in for sure. So, but my recollection is Scott walked up around that same time and like kind of caught wind about what we were talking about. And like, he got a little salty about the whole, like, in good, it's all in good fun, but a little salty about the whole thing, because I think he referred to himself as your sag bitch. Because
I think he referred to himself, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And because he knew like who was going to be in charge of the logistics.
Yeah, he's like, God damn it, this is going to be my job, isn't it?
For procurement and delivery of the podium beers. And you're right. It was like all of a sudden, like an executive decision got made that we were like, yeah, we can't leave anybody out. We need to at least give these other guys the opportunity to participate in this endeavor. So we're like, well, Scott, the good news is you don't have to get 2 beers for the podium. The bad news is we need 5 beers for the podium.
And I do. He had to enlist another friend of ours, Jason, to like Scott could hold 3, and then Jason brought the 2 a little later.
But you're right. So we're standing there stage right, and they're rifling through these podiums, and we're kind of thinking like, as fast as they're going, as long as those beer lines are, because we both experienced those lines multiple times at this point throughout the day, and as big as the crowd is, there's no way they're going to gather up 5 beers and get them to us on time. And you're right. I didn't see, like, they called us up, we got up there, whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like, Scott like apparated. He was like Lord Voldemort. All of a sudden, like, bam, he was right there, center stage, 5 beers. And like almost every podium picture I have, you're not paying attention in any of them. You're either getting the beers, handing the beers out, or chugging the beers. But there is no like classic podium, Trevor with his arms up. Everybody else is paying attention, and you're not, like.
You sent me this picture that's my favorite. My absolute favorite is all 4 of you are classic podium, like doing your classic podiums thing. And I'm crouched down picking up the beers. And I'm like, that is like the story of my weekend. It's like people taking it seriously, and then me going the extra mile to make sure we grab all these beers.
Absolutely.
And it worked. I actually think they tried to start the next podium, but they had to stop because we were up there too long.
100%. At one point, like they were like announcing like men's 41. We're like, no, we're not done yet.
Oh man, it's a podium to remember, and Now it's like, man, we gotta keep this up, do it next year. You think? What do you think about wave 2? Do you think we're gonna get in wave 1 next year?
I mean, I think you probably have a better claim for it than I do because your Iceman last year was a few minutes faster than mine. I don't know what you did 2 years ago, but I think, I looked at the passivity stats. I've never been more unproductive at work than the week after Iceman.
Oh yeah,
Like, it's a
absolutely.
universal truth. Like, I'm not doing shit. Now, the fact that I work for myself now and have for the last couple of years, that helps because I'm just hurting myself. But I was looking at it and we were like, I think I was 11th out of wave 2, and you were
Yep, 15th.
some 15th. Okay.
Yep.
And if you look at where we would have finished, just time wise, in wave 1, it would have been in I think the 50s, something like that. So
pretty good.
I think, everybody has their take on where you belong and what you deserve. And so, do we belong up there? Candidly, I think so. Do the powers that be, are they going to determine that we deserve it? Who knows? But I think that's the goal, right? Is get up there and then you have no excuses, because the 3 guys that were ahead of us on the podium were all out of wave 1.
They were, yeah.
And I do think the 2 first place was way ahead. I don't think I'm riding with that guy, not this year.
Yeah, they
were
strong, yeah.
Second and third were only about a minute up. I mean, who knows? Like, maybe not. So, that's the goal.
Yeah, I think of course I wanted to be wave 1 this year, but I think I was where I should have been. I definitely think wave 2 was challenging enough. I don't think I really was held up in any certain point. So yeah, wave 2 actually I think was a good spot for me this year. Wave 1 comes with it an even other set of like anxieties and challenges and everyone's there to go as fast as they can, and I mean everyone it just at a different level, and yeah, I mean I'd like to be there. I'd be okay with wave 2 again, maybe, probably. I think the only thing that kept me from going faster this year was myself. It wasn't that I wasn't in wave 1. So I think there's even like more to grow within wave 2 if necessary. But
yeah, so let me ask you a question, I guess, being the flip the script here. Is the goal to win it next year?
Oh boy. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. Your Margie take was an interesting one, because I've felt that this year with my biggest goal, and I'm sure it was yours last year, was to finish Margie.
Right.
And while I don't think it really took a huge physical tax on me, I mean, it definitely did, but I wasn't injured. I felt pretty good after like recovering from it. It was more of like it was really hard to get motivated to do other things, because it's like, okay, it's September, but I already accomplished what I wanted to accomplish for the year. And now the rest is just kind of cherry on top or whatever. But back last year, I think like you were saying this year, like I really trained all the way up to Iceman and circled Iceman and wanted to be strong during Iceman. So I think that was difficult for this year, to try to like really get motivated and work hard. And I surprised myself a little bit this year. I thought I'd be a little slower than I was for Iceman. But saying that, and going back to your question, that I love Margie. I may do Margie again. I may do probably maybe a longer Margie. I don't know. But that's not going to be my main goal. My main goal next year is to get fast again, and maybe like earlier in the season do like just some of those faster gravel races, hang with some of those faster gravel dudes again, and then now with a little bit more mountain bike technique and experience, try to rip Iceman for sure.
There you go. Another showdown breaker coming up.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for making my Iceman more fun this year.
Likewise, dude. It was a ton of fun. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. I've been listening for I don't know how long. I've been listening though, so it's cool to be on the pod, alongside Paige Onweller and Kerry Werner.
Hey, real quick, tell me the story about Beer Laps Racing giving your jersey to Keel Reinen at Leadville.
Oh yeah, so all right, so yeah, my little racing team is the Beer Laps racing team, and we were out at my buddy Eric and I were out in Leadville this year for the big race. Our buddy Casey, so Casey's my college roommate. Him and I did the stage race 2 years ago out of Leadville, and he won our age group, so he got the automatic ticket into Leadville for this year, and so we were out there to support him. And we had our Beer Laps racing team jerseys on, which are they kind of stick out. Like I think they're cool. Other people might not. I think they're awesome, but whatever. And so
they're noticeable. I mean, they're definitely they stand out for sure.
So we were on after we got done sagging, and if you know anything about Leadville, like after the riders come back through Twin Lakes, your job as a spectator is more, or a sag supporter is more or less over. And so we drove to the base of the Powerline climb and hiked up to the steepest part of Powerline. Now Powerline's kind of strange because most climbs the steepest part is at the top, whereas Powerline the steepest parts are at the bottom. And so it's pretty easy to get to the steep parts where people are going to be really like giving it and like, struggling. So Eric and I walked up there with our Beer Laps jerseys on. Casey came through. Actually, him and Paige were together or within a couple seconds of each other when they came through. So we cheered him on, and then we were walking back to the car, and there was a guy coming towards us, and he's climbing, so he's going kind of slow. We're walking, so we're going slow. He's kind of looking at us, and he was like, fucking love those jerseys, or whatever he said. He's like, those jerseys are awesome. And we were like, thanks, man. We were like, love your hair, because the dude had like this flowing mane, like just these beautiful locks of hair, and he said, well, with our powers combined, maybe we can be something someday, or something like that. So he wrote off. I have no clue who this guy is, but my buddy Eric has, like, if there were trading cards for the lifetime Grand Prix athletes, like he would have the set at home. So he's like, you know who that was? No. And so he told me, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Whatever. And it was Keel Reinen. I don't know if I'm butchering his name, but I think that's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so we got back from Colorado, and I was putting in an order for gear for the Beer Laps team for next year. And I thought, I'm gonna order this guy a jersey and just send it to him. And if he likes it, awesome. And if he doesn't, I'm out $60, but it's a cool story, so whatever. And so I got one to him, and I shipped it to Paige down at her house in Bentonville in advance of Big Sugar. But I either didn't get it there on time, or she didn't check the mail. I'm not sure what happened, but she didn't get it to him at Big Sugar. And so I was like, well, whatever, that happens. Because I had written him a note that said, like, Kyle, enjoy the jersey, come race Iceman. Not knowing that he was going to come race Iceman. And so I find out, like, well, he didn't get it, but he's coming back to Michigan. He's going to race Iceman. And so Paige gave it to him. I think they were at the Grand Traverse Resort for the expo, and she videotaped it and put it on her Instagram. He seemed to like it. If he didn't like it, he's a pretty good faker. Riley Amos was about it. He apparently wants one, so his request is being considered by the administration at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was kind of a cool thing. And I do, if he's listening, Keel, I hope you enjoy the jersey.
That's awesome. And on the back of the jersey, what's your slogan?
It's win or lose, we still booze. And no truer words have never been spoken. Like, at the end of the day, that's a certainty in life. Dad Taxes and the Beer Laps team having a few beers after the race.
That's cool, man. Got to keep it fun. And Iceman is all about fun. Riding bikes is all about fun. This was awesome. Thanks for making my Iceman more fun. And hopefully we'll have some more epic battles in the future.
No doubt, man. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Till next time.
The Dirty Chain Podcast is a Michigan Midpack Media production in partnership with KOM Cycling, the source for your bike accessories and necessities. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirty Chain Podcast, Email dirtychainpodcast@gmail.com. If you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you use to listen. Audio editing and original music by myself, Trevor Gibney. Thank you to Paige Onweller, Kerry Werner, and Jake Lombardo for joining me on this episode, and everyone that came together to put on Iceman this year. Long live Iceman, and as always, keep your chain clean, but get your chain dirty. We will see you in the mid-pack.